I thank the honourable member for their speech and now look to Laalithya Vadlamani to open the case for the opposition.
The population of Western nations at the start of the 21st century is by far the healthiest population in human history. We take this fact for granted and routinely expect what are in truth medical miracles. We expect these miracles to come for free and risk-free. Reality, of course, doesn't work this way, so we have fixed the blame on insurance companies, doctors, and drug companies. According to the media, politicians, and many a public opinion poll, drug companies or big pharmas are the villains of medicine and healthcare. The logic of this blame is perverse and shows stunning ingratitude. People I care about deeply are alive and well because of drug companies, and I think this is true for everyone here today. The extra decades that my grandfather was able to experience after his first heart attack was some of the best of his life. Without big pharma, complex treatments and mass vaccinations would simply not exist. Those who claim that big pharma is evil have a utopian idea of how things in the world work. Suppose we're all on a flooded ship that would sink unless each and every one of us chipped in by pumping the water out. We may feel superficially coerced into the need to pump the water. We may even feel as if we are being taken advantage of. But it's important to recognise that this collective action requires that we all contribute an equal share. Now imagine the boat as the pharmaceutical industry and the flooding as the tides of epidemics that confront our world today. Today, I have three main lines of argument. Firstly, that profits enable research and development, meaning that the profits are for patients rather than over them. Secondly, that pharmaceutical companies partake in huge amounts of charitable work. And finally, that there is a lack of knowledge amongst the public about the economics of healthcare. But before I come on to these main arguments tonight, it falls on me to introduce tonight's proposition speakers. We've already heard from Alan Petrie, also known as Dish. Dish has something of a cult following here in Oxford. He is the subject of a Facebook group with 357 members and is an NHS online test certified heavy drinker. Dish is also probably the only person to have ever accidentally completed the Mission Burrito LAAA Burrito Challenge. Next up, we have Sir Richard Thompson, who trained in Oxford and London before embarking on a distinguished career as a gastroenterologist at St Thomas Hospital. He led a clinical research laboratory for over 20 years, publishing more than 200 scientific papers in the process, and for 21 years was a physician to Her Majesty the Queen. Sir Richard has also served as president of the Royal College of Physicians, and over the years he's undoubtedly witnessed the incredible impact that the discovery of a new drug can have upon ordinary people's lives. So I'm excited to hear more about why he's sitting on the other side of this chamber later on. Finally, we'll hear from Mr. Mark Boehm, founder and CEO of Imprimis Pharmaceuticals, a company which claims to be focused on lowering the cost of drugs and increasing patient access. I noticed that a few weeks ago, Mark tweeted the following: "Thinking that we are all asleep, Pfizer raises prices every 6 months, usually 8 to 12% for several years now. Is your income rising that fast?" Well, I'm not sure about the general public, but as a former fund manager and senior managing partner at a law firm, I'm sure his often does. Nonetheless, I'm very much looking forward to what he has to add to the debate from his many years in the corporate world. Mr. President, these are your speakers, and they are most welcome. So-called exorbitant surpluses are necessary for maintaining long-term viability. Like other industries, Big Pharma is not immune from the pressure of having to meet Wall Street's quarterly earning expectations. This does not, however, mean that none of these companies don't care about their customers. We can't expect drug companies to restrict their profits while simultaneously expecting them to do more research and produce more products, which are fundamentally long-term ventures. The industry spends between $500 million and $1 billion to research a new drug. The process can take as long as 15 years, and the odds of discovery are 5,000 to 1. It's often said that it might cost 10 cents to produce the second pill, but it costs hundreds of millions to produce the first. There is no way that pharmaceutical companies can keep their shareholders, investors, and researchers happy without the profits that they raise. It's hard to believe, but Apple spend 5% of their revenues on research and development, a very small proportion. whereas Pfizer regularly spend around 13%. It seems paradoxical, given that people in the 21st century all agree that technology and medicine are something that every human being should have access to, that one company is severely criticised for its profits, whilst the other is not. 8 out of 20 companies that spend the most on R&D are in fact pharma companies, even though they are nowhere near being the world's biggest in terms of revenue. We don't like the fact that markets can sometimes be harsh, but on the other hand, it's the power of the market that creates the therapies in the first place. Big Pharma tries to strike a balance between meeting public health needs and maximising profits. Without profits, investors won't invest in pharma and drugs simply won't get made. The profits that drug companies make are for the patients rather than over. As said by George W. Merck, we try to remember that medicine is for the patients. We never forget that medicine is for the people and it is not for profits. The profits follow, and if we have remembered that, then they have never failed to appear. The pharma industry has a much broader range of motives than just profit. Companies seek to increase their market share, innovate, and CEOs often wish to build a personal legacy. All these goals are more likely to be achieved by focusing on patients rather than profits. Our scapegoating of drug companies says much more about us than them. Not to appreciate the lives saved and bettered by new medicines in the past few decades is a spectacular feat of ingratitude. Do not let the claims of selfishness fool you, ladies and gentlemen. The pharma industry has also taken on a number of philanthropic initiatives in recent years which have enabled it to reinvest its extra surplus into fruitful projects. In annual surveys of the most generous companies in America, pharma companies consistently dominate the list. By checking the website of the International Federation of Pharmaceutical Manufacturers and Associations, one can find a stunning array of investments and initiatives dedicated to finding cures for diseases that plague the developing world. AstraZeneca, GSK, Merck, and Novartis all have research and development centres established solely for working on cures of neglected diseases. These medicines will help millions of people, but have a negligible effect on the bottom line for these companies. Merck has developed a cure for river blindness at the cost of $100 million and provided it free to victims living in poverty. The World Health Organization has estimated that 40,000 cases of river blindness are prevented annually as a result. Perhaps the most ambitious effort has been in Botswana, which in 2001 joined forces with the Bill and Melinda Gates Foundation and Merck to bring HIV treatments to the country. Now, 90% of patients receive treatment, as opposed to 5% when the programme first started. Just how Henry Ford doubled his workers' pay and Google provides a vast array of employee benefits, it is possible to address social issues whilst fostering the interests of the company. It's very easy for us all, sitting here in the Western world, to point the finger of blame at Big Pharma, but our accusations are at best misguided and at worst erroneous. It's incredibly unfair that pharma companies are viewed in the same light as tobacco companies, when the two industries are literally polar opposites in terms of what they aim to achieve. What is clear is that there is a severe myopia about the actual costs of healthcare. Drug companies aren't saints, but they aren't sinners either, and certainly shouldn't be our scapegoats. That is why, ladies and gentlemen, I urge you all to vote for the opposition tonight. Thank you.